In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to win the mid lane, how to snowball that advantage, take over the game, and most importantly, destroy a rank 23 Alchemist. Let's break it down and get into it.
The mid lane role is for star players, which is why at gameleap.com we designed an in-depth course teaching you every trick and concepts pro players abuse to crush the middle lane. There's no better role than mid to solo carry your ranked games, so hit the discount link in the description below to unlock your unfair advantage with gameleap.
So we're going to be looking at a Kunkka versus Witch Doctor lane now. In particular, I have a couple things to say about this matchup. Witch Doctor actually can, funny enough, do quite well against Kunkka in the regard that Maledict is very good against strength heroes, right? Any hero with high amount of HP struggles against Maledict because it does percentage-based damage, and as a result, I was a bit afraid of this matchup, right? And especially considering I don't play against this a lot. Like, not knowing what something does makes it good, which is why I think the sleeper picks can be some of the greatest picks in Dota. Like the video I made talking about Brood, I genuinely believe that hero is insane for that reason. People don't know what it does right now, like the spiders are just crazy. But looking back at this, what am I scared of here? So you notice, the main thing I have to go into with this laning stage is the idea of drawing aggro. Now let me make this simple, guys. If you do not know how to creep aggro, and you're looking to either go pro or get to the top level, start now. Just start now. This mechanic is way too important. If you don't use it, good players will stomp all over you. You have no chance. Because you notice here, if I don't aggro here, I'm going to tank 3 to 4 right clicks with this Maledict, right? He'll be able to hit me many more times. And as a result of me drawing aggro, I only get hit once, right? He hits me again here. He's really trying to make use of it, but as a result, I bring it onto my high ground, I take less hits, I give him miss chance, and the bigger picture there is that creep aggro is life-saving. It's a mechanic that wins the laning stage. Once again here, look at, just pay attention. Why do I use it here? Look at the lane situation. Wave is pushed up. I have 2 range creeps in the back, which I would love to pressure, maybe even get into deny range. Not necessarily that easy in this current situation, but I draw back, preventing myself from having to walk onto the high ground, which is not too optimal. I secure the range creep, and then immediately, look at how beneficial this is for me. Because I draw aggro, free range creep deny. Right, I wanted to get the last hit first, but now I get a free range creep deny. Strictly due to creep aggro. I've saved myself 4 to 5 right clicks, right? I've gotten myself a range creep deny, and now I'm in advantage. A minute in, all those things have happened, right? So if you don't use this mechanic, please, for me, and let me know, please, at least trying. You have to get used to it. It's way too important. It's literally game winning. The second half to laning that I want to talk about for mid laners especially is, and actually no, this applies to every lane. Let me take that back. Is using abilities to secure range creeps, but also the idea of attention and paying attention to every creep. Don't be lazy, and sometimes I don't think it's people being lazy, but really try to be attentive to every single creep. So when I draw aggro here, due to my experience of Dota, I understand that this is going to happen, where my range creep is getting contested, but also his range creep is getting contested. And as a result, if your opponent doesn't have a spell to secure range creeps, this can be really good for you, right? You can think about it like, okay, if I'm a Leshrac and I can stun for the enemy range creep, this is good for me, right? Especially if I'm against, like, for whatever reason, a Lifestealer, and he has to walk all the way up just to auto-attack it. And in this case, I torrent for it, right? So I have the long-range torrent. I contest this creep, and torrent for this one, preventing myself from getting denied. Because all I care about in this early laning stage, right, besides not getting harassed too much, is really securing as many creeps as possible. And you notice here, instead of using proper creep aggro, I walk up way too far in my opinion, right? I get greedy for this deny. Instead of just aggroing and accepting the fact that this is a position for him to punish me, I get greedy, right? And this is where, like, you get punished for every little thing, right? What rank is this guy? 21. A rank 21 player. He's going to punish you for those type of things. And that's what happens. I step up, I get greedy for a creep I'm not allowed to go for. Like, strictly just not allowed. And I get hit a lot as a result of it, right? Once again, trying to torrent for a creep. He gets the deny. Well played by him. And then I pop myself. This was the first item I shipped out in the lane. If I didn't ship it out, I lose the lane. Period. I lose. So 3 things to start doing. Creep aggro. Attentiveness to range creeps, especially with spells. And now this, buying selves. If you do these 3 things, you're already going to be on the road to building an advantage against your opponents, especially in these harder lanes, right? Where he scares me a bit in these early levels. He could pressure me. But you notice, because I focus on last hitting, he's 5-4 to my 11-4. So I'm, you know, in general winning due to my high damage, right? He has the advantage of being ranged, but I have the advantage of high, you know, Actually, he got first blood, so he has full items already, but so I don't even have higher damage than him, unfortunately, but I do have a Quelling Blade, to be fair. Now, the second half is also preemptive regen. This is something that Henry talks about, if you guys are familiar with him. And it's idea that he abuses in particular, as I missed 2 last hits. Wow. But it's buying regen in the anticipation of getting harassed more. I know, based on what Witch Doctor does, which is deal a lot of damage with Maledict. Like, especially level 2 Maledict, this spell's nuts at level 2. I know that I'm going to take a lot of damage, so I bought a second salve. And it might be like, well, Speed, you're throwing away your net worth advantage, right? Like, you're only 100 gold up on him, even though you have 7 more last hits, right? So you're wasting your gold. But trust me, if I don't buy these salves, I would be 200 below him, right? You have to make traits in Dota. Sometimes you just can't crush a lane, or like, I don't even know how most players would crush this lane. I'm sure there's something I'm doing wrong, like getting my courier killed, right? For instance, guys, this is a high skill play right here. By sending your courier down mid. In fact, this is pretty next level, and I don't think I can even teach this to you, frankly. But the first thing you're going to want to do is send your courier down mid, especially with your regen, before you get the regen. And then, as a result, this huge bait play. We get the auto attack on the Witch Doctor. I mean, after all, this was a complete bait, right? We set up for the torrent, he sidesteps it, but really it was all just a bait. We get another auto attack in, we back up, he gets greedy, skadoosh. And you guys thought I was feeding courier. Come on. You think I would make that mistake? I'm joking, guys. Like, don't feed the courier. It's actually extremely bad. It's game ruining stuff. But I guess try to make something out of it if you are. The second thing I do this game is a little bit of theory crafting on my part from Kunkka. I personally find that Bottle is quite good on this hero, for the reason that you can XTP back to base and make use of, spamming spells. So it's something that I see a lot of pros avoid, but it's something I've been theorizing and that I enjoy doing. Yeah, so it's just, that's where Dota can be fun. You can do things that you personally think help your playstyle. I think it works with what I do, right? And in this case, something that I like to do, and this is a big thing. Listen, guys. I like to know, in particular, what level of spell I need, or what items I need to secure creeps. I know exactly how much damage I need to kill the rage creep, right? I know what level of Tidebringer, I know what items I need, I know what level of Torrent, right? And that really helps me in the laning stage. It's similar like to Invoker or Leshrac. You need to know how much damage it takes before you can set up level 2 stun to kill the range creep. It will save you a lot of time. It will save you the ability to have to overthink these things and get punished for hesitation. So basically the main idea is that you want to figure out exactly how much damage your spells do so that you understand, right? Strictly so you understand when you cannot go for creeps or secure range creeps. You notice here, I want to cast my turret on the range creep, right? So I do that. I hit, it got aggroed, but I hit anyway. And that nukes in the range creep, right? And now I can push in the lane and I can jungle if needed. Funny little strat we were trying out here. The Chen ran me a creep wave mid, and it's actually something I'm going to briefly talk about in this video. I'm not going to get the whole thesis on it yet, as it's very underdeveloped. We're going through an intensive process of figuring out this strategy, but we drive a wave mid, and if you're going to do this, I highly recommend you push your mid lane if you're going to do this, especially if you drag at the 5-minute mark, because, now we have a car wave mid, I can shove it in, and mid tower is the most valuable, right? Mid tier 1 is always known as the most valuable tower, as it opens up a very good map control on both sides of the map, right? So here we could have sieged mid, but we were trying out bottom this game, didn't work out, and as a result, I feed, so big noob. We get the tower anyway, and what's more important is kind of how we play a bit after this, what I start doing after this. But before we move on, I just want to say main things to remember. You need to learn how to last hit and aggro creeps, right? If you want to become a good mid laner, you need to be able to have, right, a number like this. 48 is slightly high because I got dragged away from mid, but that was only 4 creeps, right? It's not like I got dragged 18 creeps mid, it was 4 creeps, and yet I still have a high number, and that's strictly not jungle creeps either, and that's strictly just based on good last hitting. That's it. If you can't last hit at this level, it's very hard to go up, because the laning stage predicates emotions. Literally, it can be a big deal because it can tilt people, right off the bat, and then it makes your ganks easier. There's so many reasons why just last hitting is a foolproof way to go up an MMR, just getting better at it. Next thing I want to do is run out the Alchemist. So my intent here was to kind of create space for my Slark, which you'll notice he's getting bottom, and at the same time create pressure. We do overextend, but I just want to show this clip slightly, just strictly for the idea of like running at the Alch and creating a situation where he can't necessarily farm. What happens in a lot of games is that people run often at the enemy team or the people around the Alch, and as a result he free farms, right? And this is even the best way to protect Alch if you're with him. You should just run around the map aggressively for towers. I wish that's what the enemy team did. Instead they play defensive, they play around the Alch so we can fight at him, right? We fight towards him, which prevents him from last hitting, right? He doesn't want to fight. Even if he gets a kill, it's not worth it. He can just farm one camp and get the same gold. And you notice now, once I respawn, this is huge. For everyone in Dota, please listen, please listen. Do not necessarily instantly run back to the jungle. That is how you lose map control and you lose pressure. I died, I'm not freaking out. I don't believe that the enemy team is 10x stronger than me just because I died. That's not the case, right? I'm not freaking out because I have one death. Nope, that's not it. That's not what's happening. My team does a good job of running out the Alch, and you notice I could set up with the Torrent there strictly because I was mid, right? And now, look, listen, because I have pushed in mid and not jungled, due to the fact that we get this out kill, we can instantly transition into a tier 2. Instantly. Strictly because I pushed in the lanes and set up for my team, right? We also have an extremely good push lineup. We have like 3 of the better pushers in the game, which helps, but the main idea there is keeping up high tempo. They get a kill on the Alch, well done by them, props to my teammates, but at the same time, we instantly transition into a tier 2 mid, which is quickly closing up map control. And then you notice the second thing we do is we play on their side of the map. Right now I can run at the mid, which doesn't necessarily net us anything too valuable as we sort of mess up here. But the main idea is that we're running at them, we're creating havoc. I've really pushed for you guys to start pushing your limits. I push you to push your limits. Pushing limits in Dota is a big thing on improving. If you're afraid and you're constantly on your side of the map, you're not going to learn. It's very hard. Unless you're playing Medusa or Alch and you're getting down your farming patterns, by all means, go for it, or Wraith King, or just something like that. But if you're playing a Quap or an Ember or a Kunkka, I push you to try some games. Don't necessarily AFK farm. Get in creep waves. I still have 73 last hits. Like I'm not saying don't last it. I'm all for just farming. But at the same time, I really emphasize pushing in waves aggressively, especially lane creeps. Now the second half to this clip that's very important is what happens next. You notice I'm bottom, and I talked about before how many times the mistake people make against Alch is not necessarily running at him, but running at his teammates. His 4 teammates are bottom, which is good by them, right? They're creating pressure away from the Alch, which I like. And I noticed this. I'm like, okay, they're 4 bottom, my team's taking a fight, we're dying. So what do? Instantly, I TP to Alch to pressure him. I'm like, okay, this guy's free farming. He's very far up. He's away from any towers or shrines. So I run at him. I don't have boat. I don't even think I can solo kill him. I know this is just not even that good of a kill attempt, but I'm sacrificing my own farm, right? I'm not necessarily farming, but I'm sacrificing my own farm to shut down him. And notice now, my Chen rotates over. We set up on him, and the kill takes a while, right? Frankly, like, it took us a very, very long time to get this kill. But if we don't do this and I don't TB top, he just AFK farms. Just AFK farms. But instead, we run him out and eventually get the kill. Really good play for my Chen, so shout out to Clutch. And Dubla, coming in on the Leshrac rotation. But really, guys, hopefully you see the point. My team's fighting bottom, Slark dies, nothing you can do about that, but we just forced an Alchemist buyback. I mean, he didn't have to buy back, obviously, but the point is, make priorities as a mid laner. This is very important. Have priorities. Think ahead of time. What is my priority? Why could I instantly TP top like that? Because I had in my head my priority. I'm like, if this Alch gets farmed, we're done. Do we have Alch counters? Yeah, I mean, we have a Slark for later on. Kunkka's like, alright. Leshrac's meh. Abaddon's meh. Chen's useless against Alch for the most part. So really, in my head, I'm like, I'm the best hero to run at this Alch in the early game. It's similar if you're playing Leshrac and you see the enemy team as a Naga. You can be like, okay, this is my target. I'm very good at pressuring this hero. And you hunt them. You actively hunt that hero. And what you notice, if that hero is the AFK farmer that's weak in the early game, right? As a lot of these heroes are, the Alchs, the Nagas, the TPs, the heroes you want to run at Anti-Mage, they're alone and they're away from the enemy team. So if you catch them, you actually avoid team fights, you can split push, and hunt key targets. It really adds up. This idea is super good in solo queue, and hopefully you take advantage of it or try out what I'm saying. Last thing I want to say about this clip is what happens next. Now, when you're fighting, if all you do is fight and hunt, you will fall behind. I see this all the time in Ancient and Below games, even Divine and Below. It doesn't matter, actually. Just all the time. You'll fall behind. So what do? We get this out kill. I'm instantly looking for a wave. Mid is too far in. It's too far in. I mean, this is a little bit after he buys back. But I see that top is respawning. I look at the clock, and I'm like, okay, top is close, because I know at 40, there's a wave around here. So I run, I cut the wave, which allows us to put topside pressure, right? It will eventually shove this lane in so we can kill the top tower. And then next, I farm a camp, I actively stack it, right? And I'm constantly looking at the clock and being proactive with my farming in between fighting. If you do not do both, if you do not have downtime in between the fighting, right, you're going to struggle in solo queue. This is not OG. You can't constantly run at the enemy team and make use of it. And frankly, it's not like they do that, actually. They're constantly farming in between, right? They push in a ton of lanes. And that's the important part. Like, if you want to snowball, you can't just run at your opponent. You have to do a little bit of both. All right, next point I want to make, as we're going high ground here with our 1k advantage, which isn't too great, but, you know, the enemy team doesn't have an Alch, so it's a bit skewed. But we're going high ground, and look, no diving. No diving. Stop. Just stop. This is another point I'm going to say in like every single video. Probably I'm just going to start making the intros like stop diving high ground. Wow, look at this play. Oh, so good. But really just stop diving high ground. It's actually how like the majority of games are thrown. And if you don't believe me, watch your last game and look at someone throwing high ground. So we get the racks and we back. Period. I want to wrap up the video soon, so we're going to cover 2 more clips. But this is a big one for me. In team fighting, I think a lot of people overcommit. They follow their spells. It's this idea of following your spells. Stop running in the direction necessarily of your spell. And let's break down this clip to really understand what I'm saying. So you notice the first thing I do is I cast my spells. I see a lot of players not really freely cast your spells. Sometimes you can't always look for the best usage. You just got to use it and get it going again, right? Like use your spells multiple times. But the second half is I boat here and I don't instantly run in, correct? Why? Well, I don't want to necessarily get shackled. I'm mostly scared of a potential bongo, which could come out, right? He actually missed. In fact, would it have bounced? Yeah, you notice like he throws it out here. And look, if I chased here and ran in, would have gotten hit by that. Could have gotten hit by a maledict. But instead, we boat. I kind of stay back. I'm like figuring out the situation. I'm like, what's going on? I saw the Alch top, so I'm like, okay, he's not there. And the only thing I have to be careful about is now a Pango, right? Which he comes in from the back. But I have no problem, like, at least just hitting this Legion. But you notice I hit her, and you're like, you might be like, Speed, finish the kill, Speed, finish the kill. But it might have taken me 2 more autos, which actually completely could have gotten me killed, right? I have no more spells up. It would have taken me 2 autos, and I could have gotten chain stunned by this Pangolier, right? But instead, I used my haste, I kite around. Maybe I could have gotten the kill if I was a little bit quicker on that, which you could totally argue. But I'm kiting out. My Slark's dead. We weren't in advantage. My left shark was just TPing in after being dead as well. But you notice, I kite in, I kite out. I kite in, I kite out. And I think this is a big thing that people just never do when fighting. It's kind of like do or die. But you notice, like, always in this fight, I'm constantly not... Like, even though now we're seemingly in advantage, right? Because we just killed a shaman. We got the Pango roll out, right? They committed that. I see this Witch Doctor approach. I'm like, okay, I gotta kite out. I don't run in. I instantly back up, right? I back up. Then, because I back up and don't get hit by a coconut, I get an X off, setting up for our next target, right? Moving on from the fight, I don't necessarily stay right on top of my team. It's good to stay close to your team. Like, that's actually another mistake I think people make. They spread out too much, or they dive too far. But look, I find another target. So I'm kiting in and out, finding target by target, just casting my combo. I think I comboed like 3 people that fight, right? And that's because I'm just using my spells, getting them going, and moving in and out of the fight. So upcoming here is going to be the last fight of the video. Thank you for staying with me. And we're going to look at kind of a similar point to last fight. How do I approach this? Once again, Slark's dead. Seems like a common theme in this video. But how do I approach this fight? So I go in, I blink in. I don't want to get hexed or, you know, caught by any sort of like Pango jump. So I BKB, and I'm going for the weaker target, right? I want to kill this shaman because I know if he doesn't die early in the fight, he's going to control us up. He can be a very big nuisance from the back line. We don't end up getting him, and the fight actually was looking very bad. But you notice I had to kite out. That was the big thing here. My BKB was running low, I kite out. And if I don't, and I just continue to man up for the shaman, I would have died, fight would have ended, right? No chance we come back into the fight. Correct? Just would have ended. Done. But instead, I move out of the fight, and because I don't die, and I don't get caught out, I can look at the fight from an outside perspective. And you might be like, well, why does this matter, Speed? Who cares? What does an outside perspective do? I genuinely believe if you're in the middle of the fight, your brain gets jumbled up as if you were really there. It's like if you're getting beat up by 5 kids, you have no clue what's going on. but hopefully you see the point. Like, I can kind of look at it from an outside perspective, as if I'm some Earthshaker waiting for a good Echo Slam. And as a result, I see this kind of nice opportunity to get this good turret that hits the Pangolier, hits the Witch Doctor, sets up for that kill, and now the fight's looking pretty good. I get on, once again, I'm trying to get on top of the Shaman because I see him as a nuisance. I also Spirit Vesseled the Alch. That was one thing I also did in this fight, kind of being heads up. That was a priority I made a bit earlier. So you notice, like, I see the Alch, I'm like, okay, you're Spirit Vesseled. This does two things to him. Prevents Blink, right? And it's kind of anti-heal against Alch. Kind of, it's good, but like really strong, right? Prevents his Blink, so he can't blink out here. I X him back. Once again, kiting in and out. Look how I'm staying on the outer side of this fight, not necessarily just running out the Shaman. I don't overcommit for like 2 HP heroes just because I want the kill, right? I'm trying to win the fight, not just get individual kills all the time, right? I'm playing around my cooldowns. I get my cooldown up, I kill the Alch, and now one by one, we pick them apart. And hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you guys, right? Where it's not necessarily like do or die, or, you know, the person you go on has to insta-die. That's not always going to work. Sometimes it's about the slow development of the fight. And if that makes sense to you, like the video. If you enjoyed, please do also subscribe. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Tired of being held back by your team? At gameleap.com, we have pro guides covering some of the best heroes in the game to solo carry your ranked games, as well as a course specifically covering the mid lane role. Click on this link right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.